I want to come back to this video. I forget this guy's name. I'm sorry, he's the ASMR guy. So let me look at him real quick here.
What does research tell us about the beliefs of the incel community? Incel is short for involuntary celibate. These are people who are frustrated because they are unable to find sexual partners.
Okay. That's the first premise we need to attack right now. Because I have been part of the manosphere, the red pill community, the intersexual dynamics, doing whatever the hell. And trust me, the term will change in the next 5 or 10 years too. But what was going to be the manosphere? I've been doing this since at least 2002. So 21 years, somewhere around there. Actually, probably before that, but I track it at 20 because that's when I joined SOSWAP. And I can tell you right now that 90% of the guys who are talking about the incel communities have no idea how it developed, how it evolved. They used to be called the True Force Loneliness guys, or the Forever Alone groups. If you ever followed 4chan, there's the Forever Alone sub, right? Or I think it might have been a Reddit too. But there's these sort of like low-key underground forums, and this is the forum days, okay? So there's no, I mean, blogs are still around, but like there's no YouTube. The social media is not what it is. But there are guys who are collectively getting together to commiserate on these sites, and then you've got pickup hate, PUA hate, slut, which became slut hate. These guys have no earthly idea where those things came from. They have no idea. In fact, most of the people who are in the incel communities right now, who are wherever they're congregating, you know, on forums and whatever, they probably are too young to remember the Forever Alones, the True Force Loneliness guys, which evolved into what we now call modern incels. They don't know that. So they're already starting from a false premise, just like this guy is. Again, consider this dude. I don't even know who this guy is. I know he's supposed to be some psychologist, maybe. Who knows? But he needs to dress better. You gotta have a thing. Gotta have a shtick. You gotta have a look, my friend. But probably has no idea what True Force TFL was, True Force Loneliness, or Forever Alones. Okay. What do you got? How can I convince tradcons to see through red pill lens? You can wait for me to come back to that. That's how you can do it. There's anybody else? Well, what do you got, Shay? Okay, thanks, Shay. Yeah, you show up in Vegas and we'll work it out. So most of these guys, they're building this sort of narrative, or these like, here's the 5 core beliefs of incels, right? As if there's like some like doctor, there's some holy book, right? There's some guide to becoming an incel, and here they are.
A study in 2020 identified 5 central incel beliefs from over 8,000 posts involving over 700 unique users identifying as incels.
Okay, so we're already off to a bad start. Did you catch that? Let me back that up for you. Look at the statistical methodology here.
From over 8,000 posts, a study in 2020 identified 5 central incel beliefs.
Okay, this is 2020.
From over 8,000 posts.
So a grand total of 8,000 posts. Wow, that's a lot of fucking posts, man. Consider there's probably like millions, if not tens of millions, since the True Force Loneliness forum days. You need to rewind, man. You need to be way more comprehensive than what you think is going to sort of back up your implicit bias here.
Involving over 700 unique users. A
whole 700 out of 8,000 posts on how many forums?
Identifying as incels.
And these are the ones who just identified as incels. Not those who share similar beliefs. Not those who share, let me say similar beliefs, who are, let's just say, active in reading this material, right? I don't even want to call it a belief at this point, but you can't state facts without telling people how to feel about it.
Here are the 5 beliefs. They believe that women are evil, narcissistic, dishonest, and manipulative.
Okay, I would argue that there are some that do that. I'm not saying that the misogynists don't exist in the incel community. There are. I've met over the course of 21, 22 years doing this. I could probably mention a handful of guys who I would say those dudes really hate women. They're here because they just hate. They just want to rattle it off. Most other guys are there to just commiserate. It's their form of catharsis. It's their form of therapy. So to say that they all share the same ideology or the same opinion of women is fallacious. it is false, my friend. I don't think most of the guys in, and I'm going to steal one of Ryan Stone's lines here. Most guys in the quote unquote the black pill doomers. I mean, does that qualify? If you're a black pill guy, does that qualify you for membership in the incel community? If you're in the MGTOW, the more extreme end of the MGTOW, and yes, I know I'm not shitting on MGTOW. I'm just saying that there is definitely an extreme end of it, and usually that ends up the black pill. Are those guys considered incels? Am I considered an incel because I reveal truths about women's nature and men's nature as well, too? Oh, I've been called an incel many times. And you know why? Because people don't know what else to call you. They have no other language for it. So if I go and I say, hey, you know what? Women break rules for alphas and they make rules for betas. Oh, you're an incel. You have an incel belief. Oh, put them on a no-fly list, right? Does that qualify me for that? I have 5 books about women's nature, men's nature, too, right? Does that make, what about Dr. David Buss? What about Rob Henderson? What about Steve Stewart Williams? What about Dr. Hector Garcia? He reveals some very unflattering truths about men and women in his books. Is he an incel? Because it's not just, unless you're like, hell, I remember the very first interview of Piers Morgan and Andrew Tate. Do you guys remember that? And I jumped the gun. Mea culpa. I jumped the gun on that. I should have waited a little bit longer because I would have, there's a lot more meat to it, right? But there was a moment there where Pierce was saying, well, anything against women is misogynistic. Okay, by that definition, anything that comes out of your mouth that isn't like sugar and spice and everything nice and flowers and fucking French vanilla, then you're an incel, right? Or you're a misogynist. Is that like, we need to define terms? That's the problem. Is there's no distinction here. So to say that they all hate women, for guys who hate women, they tend to talk a lot about them.
The sexual market is unfair, and women have a privileged position in that marketplace.
Which is true.
Males are being oppressed by women. They believe that masculine norms involving aggression should be legitimized.
Okay, that's not an incel belief. Or, I mean, it might be an observation, but what he's describing now is a distinction that Andrew Tate makes all the time. You know, man up, go lift weights, go lift heavy things, go be able to have a capacity for violence. I've heard many times Jordan Peterson say pretty much the same thing. You know, be dangerous. I mean, keep your sword sheathed, right? But have a sword, right? What is it? It's better to be a farmer or a warrior in the farm than a farmer in a war, whatever. I don't forget that, whatever that is. But like, does that belief, if I go lift, like if my bench is over like 225, does that make me an incel, like a misogynist?
And they believe that violence is a potential solution to their problems.
All right. Now we're down to brass tacks. Now, remember what I said about OCD. Remember what I said about the radicalization side of things. One of the things that every single one of these people will refer back to, and I don't know how old this particular video is, but I do know that the Joe Rogan video was from 2018. In 2018, they're referencing Elliot Rodgers, which was the Santa Barbara shooting of Elliot Rodgers. And by the way, only managed to kill like 2 guys or 2 men. I think he wounded 1 woman and then he shot himself. Okay. Alec Manassian decided that he was going to go drive a panel van down the street and try to go and mow down women. I don't know how successful he was, but like the cops got him and they said, well, why did you do it? Well, I wanted to kill women. Okay. Now you're an incel. The guy who was the massage parlor killer in, I think it was Florida or something like that. Now that guy, you might be able to make a case about that. We're talking about 3 individuals since 2014 from those communities. Is it at all possible that those guys, behaviorally speaking, were suffering from obsessive compulsive disorder? Because when you look at especially if you look at like Elliot Rodgers, I'm not making an excuse for the guy. I am not endorsing this. I'm not telling you that he was right in what he did. Absolutely very wrong. In fact, I think the red pill probably would have, had he been able to sort of digest and process it a little bit differently, he might have actually changed his mind about doing what he did. Or maybe not, because he suffered from obsessive compulsive disorder, or he had a clinical whacked in the head personality disorder. So to say that that every single incel that's on every single community suffers from these delusions of, radical violence towards women, and that they're going to act on that is erroneous. It is, if anything, it's dangerous.
Incels believe that men are a marginalized group, and two groups are responsible for this: women who reject them and the men who the women do not reject.
Okay.
What does research tell us about
that? Who are those, according to the FBI? Chad and Stacy, which, by the way, were terms created on the forums, like on Slut Hate and PUA Hate, way back in 2012. You know who knows that? This guy. You know who doesn't know that? The people who are talking about it right now. They have no earthly idea what they're talking about. And I only have like a sort of a curious, peripheral interest in this, because it's only like I get these guys in my chat all the time, or I have been getting them on my blog comments, or I have had them, try to interact with me in different ways. And you know what? I understand what they're going through. I understand, because they've diagnosed the problem perfectly. They get the diagnosis right. They don't get the prescription right. Same thing with black pill doomers. Same thing with the more extreme end of MGTOW.